Hello everybody, this is Wolfgang von Latman from chaliceofimmortality.com. Today in this video I just want to help to debunk a myth really quickly. And I know it's going to be very hard for some people to accept this because they really want to believe in their fantasy land dogma of Fruitatarianism, which is fine if that's what you want, but these people who think that the natural diet of humans was fruit. I actually believed that back when I was vegan for the first couple months when I was fruitarian. It's fascinating how people can believe something so easily debunked, like something so retarded, to be honest with you. But I guess it's because we're sold this idea that, fruits grow on trees in the tropics and they always have, and, they're colorful and we just go up and pick them and yada yada. But let me just really quick explain why this is false. Why, you can search this up yourself. So essentially, fruits and vegetables as we know them in our modern time were almost unrecognizable back in primal times. Okay, so when humans were evolving and whatnot, even as early as 10,000 years ago, but especially 50,000 years ago and 100,000 years ago, the science shows that, for example, bananas were significantly smaller, they were starchier, and they were much more resembling a potato rather than a sweet fruit. And most of these fruits that are sweet these days have been hybridized to become sweet and to become palatable and to become safe to eat. But back in those days, things like bananas, they were inedible. They were toxic, especially lettuces and things of that nature. They were toxic back in those days. They were bitter. Berries were so small and so hard and so bitter that, they were inedible. If you do the research, you'll see exactly what I'm saying. These fruits and vegetables that we eat now have been selectively bred, have been hybridized over thousands of years to become delicious as they are today. And we actually, there's actually zoos, I'm not sure how common this is, but gorillas get diabetes from being fed these massive amounts of sugary fruits because they're not meant to eat that. And I think it's, once again, hilarious how a lot of people try to say, gorillas get so big and strong because they eat, fruits and blah, blah, blah. And no, they don't. They have the cellulose enzyme to eat leaves and whatnot, but they also eat tree bark. They also eat insects and ants and things that, are on the tree and that are in their natural environment. And whatever fruits they ever did eat or do eat in their natural environment, they're not the same thing they're being fed in the zoo. And us human beings, when we go to a supermarket and we buy these fruits and things, are not the same thing we'd be eating if we were in a wild environment. And furthermore, tribal societies, there's actually human beings, tribal humans that have been living in Ecuador, I believe it was Ecuador, for thousands of years, and Venezuela as well. In the South and Central Americas. They live in the rainforests or whatever, and there's documentaries showing how they get their food. And they hunt. They are hunters. They throw their spears at the animals, and instead of eating all the tree bark and eating the leaves and the whatever berries or whatever that are available to them in their natural environment, they go out and they hunt. They kill animals because, maybe they prefer the animals. Maybe it's because that's just what they've been doing for thousands of years. Maybe that's just a natural diet for human beings. Now, for me personally, once again, most people will very easily just assume I'm the carnivore diet guy. No, I'm not actually. I don't believe in that diet. I'm not for vegan. I'm not for paleo. I'm for critical rational thinking. Okay, I want to see what the reality is, and the reality is tribal humans, humans naturally have been hunting for thousands of years. There's actually humans that there's societies of tribal humans who have trained animals, trained birds, trained eagles to kill for them. Literally, these tribal humans are so intelligent and want meat so bad that they actually have trained birds to kill animals for them, for their own meals. And you can look this up on YouTube. It's incredible. So, this whole, the science behind, humans' brains have grown because of our desire to eat meat or whatever. What they're trying to say is how we devise methods of killing animals and cooking food and these things. The act of learning these significant improvements is what they hypothesize has helped us grow brains, and also I guess the increase in calories. But we do know that the more you learn, the more capacity and adaptations you grow. You adapt through learning. Anyway, so the whole fruit thing, the whole vegetable thing, especially grains. Grains haven't been around for that long. There's evidence that primal humans had what seems to be like beans and legumes in their stool or something. But you also got to remember, beans and legumes and grains are simply seeds. They're seeds. That's what they are. That can be cultivated into grasses and other things. So, were they seeing seeds in their stool, or were they seeing beans and legumes or grains? It doesn't really matter what you call them. Humans may have been eating seeds at the time, but who knows why they were eating seeds. And really, that's not really the point. The point is that the foods they were eating back then are not the same as now. So if you think it's natural, you think, like my ancestors have been eating bananas and seedless watermelons and seedless grapes for thousands of years, you got to be kidding me. Pretty much all of the fruits and vegetables we eat these days were not available back in primal times. But, as far as the appeal to nature fallacy is concerned, you lose when it comes to that. But appeal to nature, just because something's natural doesn't mean it's healthy. Just because something is unnatural doesn't mean it's unhealthy. But it is important to see, were we meant to eat this or were we not? And I think that is a good thing to look at. And when it comes to fruits and vegetables and grains, you really have to wonder, were we actually, naturally eating those things as a species back during the early stages of our evolution? And we probably weren't. But I'll tell you something you should think about, though, if you really want to look for the truth. What about insects? What about bugs? People always talk about how difficult it would be to kill larger animals and whatnot, even though primal humans seem to be doing that just fine, training birds to kill animals for them, which is crazy. But what about if a mosquito lands on my face and bites me and it hurts? I slap the mosquito, but I'm really, really hungry, and I eat it. Now, I know the vast majority of people have been conditioned to think this is disgusting, but countries outside of North America and the Western civilization, like countries like in Asia and South America and some European countries and whatnot, they eat bugs. It's like scorpions, cockroaches, and they eat other smaller animals that primal humans and us even, we could easily kill with our bare hands. Things like frogs and lizards and things like that. Flies. These are edible, and there's still people who eat these things. In France, in Germany, they eat frog legs. So, you really gotta think about this. And they do eat scorpions, cockroaches. They're edible. I know it sounds disgusting and people don't want to believe it, but it's the truth. And I honestly feel like it makes perfect sense that humans have eaten insects as long as we've lived. We know that our primates, our cousins, or the greater apes, the other greater apes like chimpanzees and whatnot, they eat insects, a lot of insects. They also eat tree bark and leaves, which we can't eat, although I make plenty of tea from tree barks and leaves. But they eat insects and bugs. How much do they eat? I don't know. But everywhere that humans are, there's bugs. In the cities, there's bugs. You can't get rid of them. Don't you kind of think like maybe there's something there? But these days there's so many harmful poisons and other things in our society that have been created by modern humans. Bugs kind of like crawl through sewage and whatnot, and you could be consuming who knows what they could be walking through, tar and you know, I don't know, cyanide or something, gasoline. And if you eat that bug that walked through gasoline, you're fucked. So it might be dangerous these days in modern times, but my point is maybe it was natural, right? Like maybe this is a big part of the natural human diet. So you know, but I think it's safe to say, you know, these days if you want to be healthy, eat a balanced diet and have a medicinal approach to eating. Try to eat, you know, the most reasonable diet that makes sense to you, that produces the results you want. If you're lethargic, that means you're probably eating the wrong combination of foods. If you can't sleep, if you feel gassy all the time, if you have horrible digestive problems, you're probably not eating the diet that is meant for you. It's not really so important to think of, well, what's natural? What's important is to eat what works. Like, think about what's natural, think about what the science says, but base your diet around what works for you and what produces the greatest amount of health and well-being, okay? Because there's a large majority of people who will not do good on a vegan diet. Then there's a large majority of people who will do good on a vegan diet. And the same thing goes for a diet that includes meat. But as far as like what's natural, it is natural to eat meat. Does that mean it's good for you? Maybe not. If you eat meat every single day, are you going to develop disease? It's unlikely that meat will cause disease. What causes disease? The big culprits in our food supply. Obviously, excessive sodium, hydrogenated oils, processed foods of all kinds, polyunsaturated omega-6 vegetable oils, and probably excess amounts of saturated fats from dairy products, most likely. That's what I would say. But that's a very basic explanation, but I just want to get that out there. Like, people focus too much on the wrong things. Like, what's natural, what's not natural? You know, should I avoid saturated fat? Should I avoid, you know, it's like, there's some really bad things that people eat that should be obvious as to what's actually bad for them. You know, studies done on animal products, claiming animal products are bad, drawing correlations between animal products and disease, done on meat eaters or whatever. So these meat eaters, these meat eaters also eat a fully loaded baked potato with sour cream and cheese. These meat eaters also down, you know, sodas and eat apple pie for dessert. And I think it's hilarious that these vegans try to say, oh, it's the meat, it's the meat. Like, how many studies have been done on people who eat a organic, whole foods, plant-based diet that also includes animal products? You know, I can tell you that ever since I started to eat a whole foods, plant-based diet with a significant amount of animal flesh, I've been feeling absolutely fantastic. But then again, I know the ins and outs of nutrition and human biology, and most people don't. Most people just, they hear a doctor like Michael Greger, like, and they sound really convincing, and they just believe everything that they say, and they just automatically like preach, oh, it's the science. Do you even understand science? It's like, do you understand the science? You know, because 9 times out of 10, these people just regurgitate information they heard from these experts without having an actual understanding of the science. So it's sad, but there's nothing you can do about it. So anyway, leave your questions and comments down below, and I'll talk to you soon.